What's going on, boxing fans? What's going on, women's boxing fans? Last night, we had the privilege to be able to see the Trilogy matchup promoted by MVP Promotions, that being headlined by Jake Paul, who had a women's all enthralled card with a whole bunch of title belt fights on the line as well. Especially in I think there was like 4 or 5 fights that was going on, and like four of them for sure were going for a women's championship belt. Only in this review and video, I will only be talking about the co-main and main event. Those are the ones that are most important to me in terms of women boxing. I'm not too tapped into women's boxing, but for sure for the co-main and main event, I was definitely there, tuned in to be able to see what was going on. So to give my recap to this one, we start off with the co-main event. Obviously, as you see pictured above you, Alycia Baumgardner versus Jennifer Miranda. Baumgardner now signing with Jake Paul and MVP Promotions, giving this big grand type of situation for her to be on a very big card, on a what we would say a woman's stacked card, if we're being quite honest. Uh, in her performance, what did I assess? I thought it was she gave it a B minus. I thought that was a horrendous performance by Alycia Baumgardner. Now, did I think she won? I thought it was very, very close. I would maybe give her the edge, leaning more towards a draw. I was looking and reading the scorecards after the fact, and I don't really remember what was the scorecards, but I knew they were very heavily skewed towards Alycia Baumgardner's way. And while I did think that she was more of the aggressor, she was coming more forward, she led more of the dance, she landed some heavy blows as well, but I just think the counter punching of Jennifer Miranda, her catching Alycia Baumgardner with her defensive lapses that she continued to add. Baumgardner looked like she was in there and she was ready to just get her out of there in like 5 seconds. And while understandably so, Jennifer Miranda is not up to the par of Alycia Baumgardner, in my honest opinion. Baumgardner is one of the most talented boxers in women's boxing as of right now in terms of what she's able and capable of doing. But she just looked in there like she didn't care. She didn't respect her opponent one bit. And understandably so, I can understand where she's coming from her mindset. I mean, she's coming off from a long layoff as well, from, I believe, one of the drug failed tests that she had beforehand. As well, she switched up her training regimen and her coach. Now switching to Derek James, having a different philosophy and formula for her to be able to win fights and just be a fighter overall. Maybe things could be a little bit lack for where she was doing to, but I just thought defensively there was way too many holes, way too many openings, way too many times that she was getting caught with shots that she shouldn't have been getting caught with. And if she were to be able to get another step up and another big name type of fighter against her, I could potentially see her getting stopped or getting really outboxed into another realm. Because while she is very talented, she has a lot of potential, and her skills are, bar none, one of the best, again, in women's boxing. Performances like that, even again, with the long layoff, with things going on, it just shows a lot. And she did dig deep down, especially in that last round, in the 10th round, and she came in forward a lot more hungrier, a lot more stronger, and landed a lot more heavier blows. But again, I thought this fight was a lot more closer than what they had it on the scorecards. Baumgartner had a pretty bad performance, and Miranda stepped up a lot more than what probably Baumgartner thought she was going to be able to do. Again, she landed a lot of nice counters, a lot of nice right hands down the pipe. She wasn't really missing her target a lot. This one I go more on Baumgartner having a more lackluster type of performance, and I expect more and better out of her. Maybe shake off some of the ring rust that she had on this one, and next time she's going to be looking a lot more better and in her prime. Previously, and like in her other performances that she's had, where again I thought she looked very impressive in a lot more other performances that she had beforehand. But this one, especially particularly, I mean, there could be a lot of factors. Being on the main stage, first time in Madison Square Garden, on a co-main event, under one of the best women's trilogies of all time, the long layoff and ring rust, the new training camp and new coach. There could be a lot of factors going on, but she did not show up one bit. The fight was pretty okay. It was all right, but again, I expect a lot more from her going forward. And now we talk about the main event, which was the trilogy between honestly the best two women's boxers of all time, providing themselves and the crowds as well with one of the best. Like, I think, bar none, I think nothing compares to what these women have put on in the first and second fight between each other. First one, obviously, to give a little bit of a rundown of history, Amanda Serrano was coming on very strong and aggressive, hurting Katie Taylor early on in that first fight, and Katie Taylor roared back in that one. I think Taylor was the rightful winner in decision for that one. Second one, a lot more controversy, the stuff with the headbutts and them getting into essentially what was the first fight, which was an absolute war. I was leaning more towards Serrano on that one for her getting the victory. Judges didn't see it that way. I mean, it is what it is. And this one, we go into the trilogy between these three women, who again gave us, bar none, the best two fights in women's boxing history ever, for being very, very honest with each other. This one was a lot more measured, a lot more technical, a lot more at a different type of pace, in particular to the first two fights. The first two fights essentially broke down into a war, into women's will, and who just wanted to be able to come out stronger in those type of performances between those two women. This one, we saw a lot more boxing, right? Obviously, the excitement, the war mentality coming into this and expecting another just brawl out bloody mess between these two women, we didn't get that. But what we did get was a very good performances out of these two women. And I say that with hesitancy because while it was a very good performance by these two women, it wasn't something that we were coming to expect to, especially coming out of seeing the fights that we've seen out of these women beforehand. But obviously, going through all the punishment and pain that these women have put into with each other, it is expected that maybe they would come at a more measured pace with this. I'm just being straight out with it, already calling it how I called it last night. I saw this fight as a draw. I agreed with one of the scorecards. The other two scorecards had it 97-93, more to Katie Taylor. In my honest opinion, I think that's maybe a little bit leaning too much. I could see maybe 96-94 to Taylor, and as well vice versa going towards Serrano's way. This one to me, though, felt more like Serrano, if anything, was probably going to get the victory already coming off of two losses. Where the first one, again, I did think that she did lose that first one. And the second one, I thought she pulled it off. But this one, this being the rightful one, her being back in her hometown in New York, or one of the biggest hometown, crowd advantages for a Puerto Rican fighter, that being in New York in MSG. As well as Katie Taylor, she had her Irish background. They're roaring for her as well. It was, man, there was just things that Serrano did that I thought that she could be able to do a little bit more. That definitely could have really worn down Katie Taylor. Obviously, the speed advantage is towards Katie Taylor, power advantage towards Serrano. Serrano was doing things in terms of like throwing out a jab that was not in range or in distance, and she could just continuously did it. And then she turned it into a jab and a jab with a cross, or 1-2. And these punches that she just continuously like flailed out there weren't landing, and I think she did it purposely to be able to gauge her distance or just throw something out there before Taylor wanted to be able to come in and maybe try to counter her with something. Um, really just, I guess, have some warning for her, some caution before she was able to be able to go inside and maybe implement more of her game plan. But it just came to a point where she just continuously was doing it and she was just hitting air. And the judges are going to be seeing that. And while Katie Taylor is not really much engaging in terms of her defense, it's not landing. It's whiffing. she was doing that. Katie Taylor, there was rounds where she was very, very inactive. She wasn't really doing much in terms of, like, I believe the sixth and maybe seventh or eighth round. It was around one of those three or two rounds where Amanda Serrano is walking her down. She's whiffing a lot of punches. She would land maybe a few nice punches here and there, but Katie Taylor would just continue on her bike, moving really well laterally as well, using again her speed advantage, and she was countering effectively, like with her hooks. But she would land maybe like two or three, and then that would pretty much be it of the round. So, I mean, if you want to reward defense and making Serrano miss a lot and countering effectively and landing the more cleaner, effective punches, I can completely understand that. But it gets to a point where if you're so inactive throughout the entirety of the round and the majority of what you're doing is just using your movement, the other person is looking more as an aggressor and wanting to be able to press on forward for you. And if they land a few more shots more than you, or maybe the same amount of shots, but they're the one walking forward, I can understand why the judges are going to be able to give them the round. And it looked like they actually didn't give the round to Serrano because of those things and because of Taylor's defense, her movement, and her effective counterpunching. Really, it just came down to the fact that Katie Taylor was landing the more cleaner shots. I wouldn't say the harder shots, but the more cleaner counters, effective shots, quicker shots. I think she was landing them a lot more better. Amanda Serrano, she was doing her thing too. She was actually landing pretty well to the body. She landed a lot of straights in terms of jabs and her left hand to the midsection of Katie Taylor. But overall, the fight was okay. It was an okay fight. I again had it a draw. I thought that they were going to lean more to Serrano because again she already had lost two of the fights already, and one in controversial fashion, and the other one it being very close and narrow. But it is what it is. That being the first one. I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was a great performance out of both of the women. Um, it could have been a little bit more. Maybe we could have got more bang for our buck in terms of our entertainment. But these women already put each other through two wars already. I don't expect them to get into the same mindset of getting a third war in there within each other. So again, we got more of a technical type of boxing, strategic type of fight. Where in terms of their strategy, I think at the beginning, Amanda Serrano was definitely controlling the fight a little bit more, using her jab and her distance and keeping things in range for her. I think like the first maybe 4 to 5 rounds, she won maybe 3 to 4. And towards the middle, I think Taylor started to be able to come on a little bit strong. And towards the end of the fight, Serrano won a couple of rounds. And towards the end, I think Taylor closed it out for herself to clinch herself to draw. Again, I've said this probably 3 or 4 times already. I already agreed with one of the judges' scorecards, and the other two, excuse me, that had a majority decision going to Katie Taylor. I can see, but I personally don't agree with that one because we've seen other fights where guys maybe are missing and the other guys is, being defensively sound and they're countering pretty well, but they're not countering as effectively as they should have. And they lose rounds because of that because they're the ones on their bike and the other guy is pressing them forward and they're landing in the round around the same amount of shots and they're giving it to the dude that is leading the dance, pretty much, so to say. And obviously, like this video. If you obviously like this video, comment your opinions on who do you think won last night in terms of the trilogy matchup between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. And actually, how do you have the trilogy going down with these two women? Do you have it 2-1 Serrano, you personally? Do you actually do think that is correct being 3-0 Taylor? Anything that you want to be able to talk about this card, be able to put that down below in the comments and subscribe. Boxing fans, women boxing fans, we're here to be able to be a collection and all together come in as a camaraderie and make sure that we make boxing great again. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.